Hi,
Hi guys,
everybody.
how are you guys doing? I could see your comments, so you could tell me how you're doing in the comments.
Oh, great. We're using StreamYard. Does that mean we're going to see everybody's comments?
Yeah,
Okay. I have I don't know why. I
I
just
don't
feel
know
like
what
it's
your version
StreamYard.
is.
I feel
You
like
can
they
see
knock, I don't
everything
know. I
right
feel like
here.
they knock off comments or something because when we do live stream just to Periscope, there's like a lot more comments.
I don't know what she's
I
talking
don't,
about.
okay.
Okay,
Maybe I'm going crazy.
I think
I
you're
feel like there's a
going slightly
difference.
crazy.
I'll prove it at
Um,
some point. So
Hi guys, I see you guys commenting.
it's been interesting week. Saturday we spoke at the
Stop the
Stop
Steal
the Steal rally.
in Nashville.
There's a lot of people. It was
Yep.
really interesting. I mean, we thought there'd be a lot more BLM people there.
There were not.
There
There
were
were only
not.
like five.
Yeah,
There were
but
five.
the week prior there were.
Yeah.
So much so that somebody said they didn't want to bring their daughters back because how aggressive they were and
Yeah, how rude they
shouting
were.
out profanity.
Well, we
and
had,
flicking
there were
them
probably
off
about,
and
what,
young
2,000
girls.
people, probably maybe 1,500, something like that. It's hard to keep a count, I mean, unless you're sitting there with the clicker, but it was a lot of people showed up to stop the steal. And, you look across the country, you see this happened everywhere at all of the capitals. So this is something that's going to continue. I know at ours, people were resolute in the idea they're bringing 10, at least 3 more people up to 10 more people next week. So I think that you're going to see even bigger rallies next week. So we'll be doing that.
Saturday at noon, we'll be there
Mhm.
in Nashville at the Capitol speaking again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be there. So hopefully, if you guys can make it, if you're local.
We're going to go over some current events today just
Yeah.
because, I feel like a lot of people have been asking why we haven't streamed. There's just been so much going on. Now, I'm on an advisory board for everything that's going on with the election right now. And so it's just, there's been a lot going on behind the scenes. It's just been really busy. So we haven't been able to do any shows. But we also do have a show tomorrow with Bryson Gray. So Bryson
Wait.
Gray will be on with us tomorrow.
You
Yes.
do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
And then I'm sorry. And then the next day we have the teachers.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we have some teachers who have come out as whistleblowers because of what they've been forced to do over COVID, and that'll be on Wednesday. So we do have a lot of shows this week. There was just some stuff in the news I didn't feel like tweeting about. I just would rather have a conversation because we were talking about them anyways, and we were like, why don't we just do this in front of camera? So
Right.
Harry Styles, that's the first one. Okay, so this may be shocking from a guy who has a man bun and wears somewhat tight jeans, but I am wholly against this movement of guys and celebrities in Hollywood wearing dresses and women's makeup and stuff like that. It's just, I think historically, you go back and you look at societies, right before societies fall, you see this deep feminization of men, okay? And some people will be like, well, you have long hair. Well, men have had long hair forever during great societies and not great societies. Long hair is not a feminine trait. It's something women have long hair more often than men do. But in the past, men had long hair, quite often. So I don't see that as a.
They still do. In
I don't see that as a feminine trait.
Native Americans actually believe that it's a sign that you're closer to God. There's spiritual reasons men have.
See, I'm with that. I didn't know that, but I feel like I knew that. But no, seriously, I saw this picture and my immediate concern was like, man, we have 2 daughters. I feel really bad for them. They're going to be slim pickings when they are like at dating age and stuff like that. If guys buy into this idea that this is like the form of masculinity you should look, it's not masculinity. It's you're tearing apart masculinity. And the funniest part is like the left loves to celebrate this stuff. They like to pretend like, oh, we're tearing down toxic masculinity, thereby admitting that it is masculinity they're going after. They just believe that it's toxic. But then when you turn around and say, hey, I think this might be bad for masculinity, they're like, this has nothing to do with masculinity. So they can't decide which one it is, But in my mind, you just look at historical precedent. And in historical precedent, this is always a bad thing for societies when men don't behave like men.
Well, it's not
and this
just
is not male
about
behavior.
it's not just about like gender. It's about demoralization as a tool to usher in other agendas. So when you have a society historically that has been demoralized, you're going to see a society that's weakened and preoccupied with seemingly privileged problems like your pronouns versus poverty, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're seeing is really, this demoralization. We're seeing it just evolving. It's or devolving,
Yeah.
if would be more accurate term. And where's it going to go? It just keeps going.
It's regressive.
It really is.
It's like the idea, you get into sort of, there's a few old school feminists, people like Christina Summers and what's her name? Something Paglia. They basically, they went back to this old idea where they're like, look, one of the problems is as you go on in society is, original wave of feminism what provided good things like the right to vote, things like that. But you can end up in a phase where we start degenderizing to the point where we start to forget what was so important about the differences within gender. And I think that's an important thing. There are important constructs within gender, at least for us. And when we talk about stuff like this, we're talking in generalities, because we're talking about the general truth. And so for us as a married couple, there's general truths. I'm much larger than her. Okay. I'm 6'2", 6'2.5" ish. I'm actually pretty big when I'm like standing and stuff. She's small. She's like 5'1", 5'2", 5'3".
We really don't even.
Okay. But no, just getting into the physical aspect of this, there's inherent differences in danger for the entirety of human history. The male was relied on for that sort of dominance and protection, things like that. That's not a bad thing. That's not something that we can deny as a society. That doesn't mean women aren't capable, they're not able to defend themselves. It doesn't mean any of that at all. It's just looking at general truths. And when you end up at a place where men like Harry Styles, who are supposed to be held up for kids to look up to, are wearing dresses and feminizing themselves, those traits get repressed. Because you get taught that these ideas of gender constructs should be torn down. And so I think that's what's dangerous, is that young people get the idea that all of these gender constructs are just these bad, terrible things, when in reality they've served really important purposes.
Right. I mean, sometimes you can get caught in the weeds on that because that's a symptom. The overall thing is demoralization, and gender is just one of the symptoms that they go after to try to cause confusion, and to remove a sense of identity, purpose, but really a self-identity. I mean, because when you strip somebody of their identity, whether you're doing that with a mask, you're depersonalizing them, which is why slaves actually in many cultures have worn masks. They found, going back to the Arabs, have found that when you cover somebody's face, you're depersonalizing them. So when you're looking at psychological manipulation and weakening somebody or weakening an entire society, you have to first weaken the individual. And how do you do that? Well, what are some ways that you can make somebody lose their sense of identity? Attack religion. What gives us a sense of purpose and identity? Maybe it's religion for some people. Maybe it is their gender. Maybe it is their innate masculine desire to protect their country, to serve their country, to protect women, vulnerable. For women, maybe it's to attack their innate desire to nurture or to help, to bring life, to tap into their intuition. These are all things that have to be attacked to destabilize the individual. That's how they destabilize a society, is to destabilize the individual. And here's the thing. I mean, we could talk for hours, and we've done a lot of podcasts and streams on people in Hollywood and the culture. And I'm just personally at a point where I'm tired of pointing those things out. And I sincerely hope that you guys are with me on this, where what we're talking about. Like, we don't have to explain to you how this all works anymore. You've had enough time now with COVID, with these lockdowns, to break this all down. And if you don't get it now, I really don't think that you will. So I want to speak to those people that are with us here on the same page. At this point, I mean, we could sit here and we could just talk about Hollywood's doing this now. They're actually, Pornhub, they're sex ed advocates are directing kids to Pornhub because now they have a new section for sex ed. Directing. What did I say? Directing kids to Pornhub to educate themselves on sex ed. And, we could talk about all that because, yes, that's happening, shocking as that is. Or we can talk about how we leave this system and rebuild our own, which I feel is the necessary conversations that need to be happening now, rather than just pointing out, oh, look at all the things they're doing to just ruin us. And then we're just sitting
I
here
can say this,
saying, look at everything they're doing. Oh, now they're doing this. Like,
if we're talking about historical precedent, you know, you look at a place like Venezuela, you know, in Venezuela, they did this more so than in Cuba, but in Venezuela, they did call out all the crazy stuff the left was doing. And ultimately, that was not enough to bring down the left in Venezuela, because the leftists can control the institutions, and whoever controls the institutions wins.
Okay.
So, you know, that's the big problem we have here in the U.S. is the left is holding these institutions like academia, media, entertainment. In answer nobody's tried yet in these other countries is saying, you know what, we're walking away from your institutions, we're creating our own. And, you know, I think that's one of the things with populist movements like this is that if you don't know how to hone personnel and power into institutions, you have a lot of problems. So we need to get organized and very directed towards creating those institutions. You look at the success some of these films are having on Amazon. I'm surprised Amazon is still allowing them on there. Things like Plot Against the President or Trump Card. These movies are doing incredible. That's because there is a thirst and a hunger for content that does feed these audiences. And it doesn't have to be overtly political. It just has to match up with our values. You know, it's just, we want great stories that reflect our values and the way we live our lives. You know, so that's an important part of it as you get into that. I wanted to, we can switch gears, talk about,
wait, why do we have to switch gears? I wasn't done with that gear.
Well, I don't want to spend like hours on each one. We have a lot of stuff to go through.
Okay, then can I just have the final word on that?
Yeah, because a lot of people left listening to that. They're
well, good.
They want the next
good. Then they're not on the same page here. I'd rather talk to people on the same page because those are the people that are doing what has to be done to usher in this new place of consciousness where people are paying attention. The ones who are going to tune out of this conversation aren't on the same wavelength. Or maybe they have to go. Okay, I'm not going to say they're just stupid or whatever. Maybe they have to go. But
Landon's
honestly,
on one today. She's very fiery.
Well, I'm tired of going up a hill where it's not going to happen. I mean, I could sit here and do a cultural show and talk about all the things wrong with the left, and I know how to break it down. I've done my research. I know how it works. But I feel like that is not the way. That is not the way that at this point we need to go. And I think that at this point, you know, also we're not waiting for an ecosystem to be built, okay, an ecosystem of entertainment and all that. But rather that is showing people, instead of consuming entertainment, Hollywood, and being addicted, because that's essentially what is happening, is we're addicted to these things to make us happy and entertained and all those things, and it's breaking that addiction. So I'm speaking to that, because if we can overcome that need for Hollywood, then Hollywood doesn't exist. I mean, let me ask you a question. If we all, every single one of us who is awakened, essentially, pulled out, like we stopped participating, we stopped funding our own destruction, we stopped watching their media, we stopped listening to their music, we stopped watching movies with pedophile directors and people participating in this whole system, you know, how does that system stay alive? How does it doesn't. So that's my answer. And it's not just about boycotting, it's about removing yourself as a participant.
They'll stay alive, but we have an opportunity to make them no longer dominant.
No,
we have an opportunity to suck the power from them. They'll still be there. They'll still be empowered. They'll still get the Oscars and
releases that have historically crossed certain lines, right? Mm-hmm. There was a huge backlash and people stopped supporting it. All the rest of America stopped supporting it. What do? They take it out of theaters. Why? Why do they do that?
It was a message. It's a message. They're sending a message. They're signaling.
What's the signal? What do you mean?
They don't want to lose people long term.
Well, they also can't fill theaters. So it makes no sense for them to keep their financial, their marketing roll
the way this used to work is if you corrected that mistake, you know, that people would be very forgiving. We're not in a forgiving place anymore.
Why would they care? Why would they even care?
They care because they want butts and seats. That's
exactly.
why.
Money. It's about money.
The point is that we're never going to erase these people. We're never
it's
going
not
to
the
erase,
point. Yeah,
and that's not even our goal.
Yeah.
The goal is us to be able to be fully represented. And we just saw over 70 million of us voted for Trump. We have no representation there. So we'll never take them down.
That's not my goal.
But we can
my
dominate.
goal isn't to be represented.
We can
my
dominate.
goal is to create content that people, our values are represented on our
and we
side
can
of
dominate.
things.
We can dominate those institutions if we create our own.
Mm-hmm.
They will no longer hold all the power.
Right.
They'll get the Oscars and stuff like that, but we can fill butts and seats the same way they can. And it's not just about that. It's also about, academics. Our kids go to college the same way their kids go to college. Mm-hmm. Okay? So if we have our own institutions that reflect that and our kids start performing better than their kids do because ours aren't spending all their time on gender studies,
right,
that is going to reflect itself, and there will be societal corrections as a result of it.
Well, yeah, that's a whole separate conversation.
And it takes a long time.
Because then you also have discrimination practices happening within the educational institution, but that's a separate conversation. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah. You can go on the next.
So next thing was, this free. It's a variation of the free college argument. It's we're going to wipe out your student loan debt. Okay, and so Chuck Schumer came out. And he said that Joe Biden on day one, and this is them under the assumption Joe Biden's winning, okay, but I just thought it was worthy of commentary. He said, by executive order, he'd get rid of $50,000 of student loan debt. Okay, so I just want to get into that idea about fairness and individual freedom, because this really goes back to individual freedom. People made individual choices to go to college. The place where I diverge on this whole deal, because I think the whole thing is largely a scam. A lot of these institutions, they have these endowments that are insane. Insane. People can't even fathom how large some of these endowments are. They have the money themselves to pay for all the student loan debt of their students. They don't though, and when you look at this, you look at the raw numbers, 40% of the student loan debt is held by students who have gone further than a BA. These are doctors. These are people who went post-grad. They're doctors. They're lawyers. They're people who make 6-7 figures a year. Okay, they're people who can afford to pay their student loan debt. But we're going to pay $50,000 each of them. Yeah. To eliminate it. The people who are at lower scale jobs, lower paying jobs, they have less student loan debt. So when you talk about $50,000, you're largely benefiting coastal white liberals in general. Like those are the people that will benefit the most from it. Of course, you'll benefit some other people, but largely you're going to benefit those people. It goes right back to the Democratic Party's first impulse is to forget about the rest of the country. The rest of the country would have very small sort of, there would be some people happy with it, but you'll have a much larger number of people very upset because they worked they worked 2 jobs, 6 days a week, and they paid off their student loan debt. And now we're giving it away? That just doesn't make any sense. Right. Well, I mean, that's kind of low on my priority list, to be honest. Yeah. Well, what about... All right. You were going to talk about... We can't agree on what we're going to talk about because... We had different ideas today. We have different ideas. We had very different ideas today. You guys can tell. Even on it's so funny because we're so close that we're usually our energy's in the same place. And we're we have the same stuff we want to talk about, same stuff and everything. We had very different ideas today. You were going to talk about San Diego, right? Oh, well, I was just going to mention that San Diego, you can go to strip clubs still, but you can't go to church. You can't go inside schools, all of that. I mean, does that make sense to anybody? It still doesn't make sense to me. Do they wear masks? on what part? Because that just seems funny to me. I don't know. You have strip clubs open. What about all of the safety practices? Do they wear masks? I don't know. I mean, that seems like it would be, that just seems like, I feel like when people do stuff like that, you're already making some sanitary risks, there's a lot of sanitary risks involved. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. But what about the Christmas thing? So did you see, I tweeted you, did you see it? Yes. Okay. So no, I didn't. I don't think I did. You didn't? Okay. So if you guys haven't seen it, I saw the Christmas Fauci video. Yeah. So Fauci went on CNN and Jake Tapper talked to him and Jake Tapper said, it seems like Christmas is not going to be possible this year. And Fauci's like, Fauci, I'll give him a little bit of credit. In his brain realized, damn, that sounds really bad, Jake. Why'd you say it? But they're fully on, so CNN's fully on board this train of no Christmas, because Christmas will not be possible this year. And so my immediate reaction was, I was like, I'm going to go 10 times larger for Christmas. It's like, did these people never learn when they tell us not to do something? With their track record, it just tells me I should do more of it. Okay, their track record is that bad. But I also happen to love Christmas. It's my favorite time of year. So the very idea that CNN is anti-Christmas is like really exciting for me, because I looked at pictures of like the craziest Christmas light decorations, and I put one on Twitter at you, and I asked you if I could do it.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
So can I go crazy this year?
I mean, again, priorities. Is that really like?
All right.
Is that going to
Does
make
everybody
you really
hear
happy?
the Grinch over here?
Okay, that'll
Everybody
be your Christmas present. All right.
All right.
I was going to give you a 10-pack
also,
of on-demand massages from me, but you know what? If you want your Christmas lights, by all means.
Okay, you know what? That was extra Grinchy, because I'm going to take the massages, but she's a Grinch, is she not? Tell her we need to have the most decorated house in America, and that she can't use my Christmas presents as bartering material. It's unfair. People are not happy with this. You look at this. This is uniform disagreement against Landon.
Okay, look, it doesn't mean I don't love Christmas. It just means like.
And this person thinks, Karen thinks it's opposite day. Karen D77801994. She said you're not a Grinch. It's opposite day.
I'm just like, that's
so. That's.
I think we're just.
That means you are.
I think what it is we're coping with all this differently. You want to live. You want to go to Whoville in your mind. You want to go to Whoville, and you want to have like a bunch of crazy Christmas decorations.
I want to shoot out
cookies
Christmas
and
lights.
pretend that everything is fine. You want to escape and watch your sports and all that.
No.
Yes, that's what you want.
No.
And I would like to charge ahead like Braveheart and paint my face and like murder everybody who's trying to like control people. That's
that clip's not going to get me in any trouble running for Congress. Thanks, hon. Because people are really understanding of satire.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
The left is known for their ability to read jokes.
You know what though?
Satire.
I don't care. Speaking based on what.
But no. So if you guys don't know, I announced I'm running for Congress, and so that should be fun. That'll be interesting. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
So we need to learn a lesson from these Secretary of State races, okay? You look at Arizona, look at Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, all Democrat secretaries of state, okay? We didn't fight for those states. Those states, the left, people like Soros, they invest tons of money into these races, to our credit, we got the state legislatures, which is great, but you look at DAs, you look at secretaries of state, we didn't fight hard enough for those races. We could have won those races. And those races are critically important. You look at what's happening right now. Can you really tell me you trust what's going to happen in Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, when the people responsible for the vote and the outcome and the certification are Democrats? Our only hope is that we have the state legislatures there. In terms of forcing their hand, we really need to have those state legislatures giving ultimatums to the secretaries of state. But those races are so important. So no matter what happens over the next few weeks, make sure that becomes a focus of yours as we go forward. In primaries, make sure that the primary candidate is somebody who represents us. And in the general, fight our butts off for these people, because we need to win those races to win the big races, and also same thing with the Georgia Senate seats. I don't care if you like Loeffler or Perdue. I'm not going to get into the semantics of it. Are there better candidates? Sure. I could think of a few better, candidates if I was just choosing a candidate to put in a general election, but those are our candidates. I am going to fight my butt off for them, because the other option is the Democrats hold the Senate and they can do whatever the hell they want. They can add new states. They can, really anything you can think of, they can do. If they have the Senate, they have the House, they have the presidency, they can do whatever the hell they want. They can expand the court. They got me. Not expand, pack. They'd be packing the court. Mm-hmm. Okay. All those things, are on the line. So we have to be very clear about that, and we have to fight hard for those wins. So
Yeah.
I will be donating to both of them for their races.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Deep Media. Hey, thank you so much for the nice comments, and you guys are awesome. Just, we're so grateful that there's other people like us, that we can connect with on here while it's still, relatively accessible platform. Who knows where we'll be in a year.
Look at this. Everybody's on my side. Everybody's on my side. You're a Grinch, and I should be allowed to decorate as much as I want to.
Babe, you can do whatever you want. I'm just not going to be out there like,
and they all said that you need to be a part of it and help me decorate. That's what they said.
Gosh.
And we could do it on live stream. People could listen to us bicker about lights.
Okay.
What do you think?
That sounds good.
Every year, I will say this. I don't know if you guys can relate to this. Every year, it turns into a gigantic mess with the damn lights because there's always broken lights, and I have to go through every strand finding the broken light, take them out, and it's just a pain in the butt.
Sounds
like
so fun.
I just did candy
really
canes.
enticing.
I did
experience.
Was it candy canes? No, it was there. What are they? They're like these little light bulb things that are for a necklace. And I had to go one by one in the light bulbs because there was one light not working. It was such a pain in the butt. It took me forever. And you have to replace the fuses. It's a pain in the butt. But I love Christmas. It's my favorite.
So yeah.
I love it.
I mean,
Fauci said, do as you're told. How do you feel about that?
I don't do as I'm told. Definitely not by corrupt medical establishment people with conflict of interest who contradict themselves on a monthly basis, or government telling me what to do with my health or anything.
I would love to see you question Fauci. That would be like, I would pay a lot of money to see that. I would pay a lot of money to see you interview him. Honestly.
Oh my God. Did you guys hear his comment about how he said something about like Katy Perry and Kardashian or something, how they're sophisticated in their knowledge? He said something, I mean, what happens, guys, who might not be aware is they do these.
What?
Okay, so.
He needs a drug test. Now.
Okay, so listen. So, they do these things like Robby, right? Who's political influencers, right? They do calls, things like that. They're organized. Well, they do this with media figures too, with celebrities, okay? Because they're mouthpieces. They're like paid media news arbiters. Like they work for the Democratic Party. Like we've all figured this out now. So they, celebrities, basically they have these like group calls with people like Fauci. And why would that be okay or appropriate? It's not. It happens though. So they basically say it's because these people have megaphones, access to people, and they want to put out accurate medical information. And apparently they're so sophisticated they can't actually just watch them talk and echo that same medical information or read, the same information we're reading. Apparently they're so much more sophisticated than us. So
they even have Fauci t-shirts now that they made to look like Gucci shirts.
Y'all, I just can't anymore. I can't break it down. I mean, at this point, it's kind of like you're on this journey, and at this point there's some people and they're like, I just don't know if I want to go. I just want to go back to this old way. And I say, let those people, do what they want. I'm opposite of forcing anybody to do anything. So, if you want to come with us on this journey, but I'm not going to keep hanging back here in my growth, in my evolution, in what the content of what's important for us to talk about. I'm not going to hang back here anymore because it's slowing down, my personal growth and evolution and ours collectively of where we're at. And I know that you guys are with me on this. Like, you know what I'm talking about.
Can we coexist with like this movement we're seeing on the left? I don't think
that's the whole point. That's the whole point, is that we've arrived at this place. Okay. We cannot coexist with people who think pedophilia is a sexual orientation or are going to make excuses for child sexual exploitation.
Or even just the fact that they want us executed. I mean, they don't want us to be a part of society.
With people who make lists, okay? People who make lists to try to eradicate people like us from society. People don't compare, I hate using this comparison. I really hate like any, with the Holocaust or anything like that. But it's already up in the, the sphere of people's awareness because of the insensitive and stupid comments from the lady on CNN about it. And actually quite you
Christine
know,
Amanpour.
yes,
She
but
compared
actually the left talks about this comparison
Trump
a
to
lot.
Hitler and all
But
that.
I want to point out that their dehumanization, the same language that they're using about people that don't agree with them, the only step left is rounding us up. You know, and if one thing we've learned from all of this is to not underestimate them, and to pay more attention, right? To what we didn't know was coming for so long. Like we were just, you know, we had this like attitude of like, oh, I don't want to ruffle feathers and live and let live and to each their own. Like that mentality has to go. It has to go.
This is one of those areas where you and I disagree a little bit because I don't think that their movement is dumb enough to ever try that.
See,
I think
and what do you think? What would your
grandfather
grandfather say if he was sitting here?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I don't know.
Yes,
but
you
I
do.
do know this.
Do you see the dimple?
I do.
See the dimple, y'all? Turn your head. This is called the dimple of truth. And as your elected future congressman, you have this unique insight that if he's ever, you know, nervous, look, he's even turning red too. If he's ever nervous or lying,
no,
I
smile.
you just look at that dimple.
That is a lie. She's lying. This is
dimple.
the dimple of truth over here. She's lying.
I have a dimple on my
let me
chin.
tell you. No, but I will say this: our side has all the guns. You know, most of the military police officers, all those people there on our side. Why would they? Why would they try?
But listen,
I mean, that seems like
look
a really
at what's
dumb
happening
thing to
right
do.
now in the UK.
The UK's they're a dumpster fire. They're fully liberal, indoctrinated.
And
crazy.
how do you think they got there?
They've been there for a long time.
Okay, yes, but
Landon, their police carry batons and they wear like
the rainbow
little like unicorns on themselves and stuff. They put sparkles in their hair.
Okay.
I mean, like this is not a serious.
See,
we're not talking about
this
serious
is what I'm
people
talking
here.
about. This is the attitude that gets us here.
But this
and
is
they're not going to do that.
But you said the only thing they haven't done is
they
that
literally try
they
to set
can
up
go so
no-go zones.
No,
okay, we have people being attacked in the streets in front of the White House.
They can go so much further than this.
You don't think they can weaponize police? They absolutely can.
No, they can. But see, that's the thing is you said the only thing they haven't done is this. There's so much more they have left to do.
Really?
They would have to destroy our police forces and then bring in left-wing people to be law enforcement, okay? Social workers, whatever the hell
no, I'm talking about rounding people. I'm talking about making lists, making plans.
They've already made lists. I already
No, I'm not talking about lists of like, let's get people, you know, eradicated from society or, you know, or let's make them lose their jobs as if that isn't bad enough in America in 2020. But, you know, I'm talking about like using big tech, okay? Using big tech. There's lists of dissenters. There's lists of people who've been adamant about not getting a COVID vaccine, things like that. There are lists, there's algorithms, there's all this data, okay, that they cross, pollinate, okay, at these companies. And it's so incestuous. You just look at the owners of these companies. They're so incestuous. So you're telling me that
what list
that they can't work with big tech who works for the Democrats, and the Democrats
they absolutely will. But my question is like I feel like it's not so much a question. I feel like there's so many other steps that they still have in front of them. We have so many opportunities to trip them up and to turn this around. I don't think that they're just like, oh, they've beaten everything else. All they have left to do is this. I don't think we're at that place.
I didn't say that. You know? And I don't think we're at that place either. But I think we're at the place where we need to be aware that they have the capability to do this. They have the capability. That's where you get dangerous. Okay? Education, gone. Entertainment, gone. Medical establishment being weaponized. Science establishment being weaponized. Pay attention.
At least in medicine, we still do have some good people on our side. I would say, in that regard, though, it's why it's so important for us to do these things like Stop the Steal Now, build networks of people, and be able to turn people out to have our voices heard. Because if they do something, this is something we traditionally haven't been great at on the right, and we need to be as good, if not better than the left at, is this organizing and us being able to get together and show up. And this weekend was a really, really, really good, a really big improvement, I should say, from the past. Because you look at the whole country was organized and showing up at these capitals. And you saw the turnout in DC was fantastic. So these things are really important. The stuff we see in the UK though is just embarrassing. It really
Mm-hmm.
is. It really is. You look at some of these people that are supposed to be, they call themselves democracies, they call themselves free people and they're not. In the UK they're not free. In Canada they're not free.
No, I know they're not. They're
They're
not at all.
In the US you're free based on where you live.
Right.
Which is a little weird, but it's true. You live in some of these areas. We just talked to a family member this weekend where they're locked down. They're locked down and they feel like they don't really have a choice. For us, we have rules, technically, where we live in Tennessee because we have a terrible mayor, but I don't abide by them. I don't abide by any of his rules. I called him out for his ridiculous online reporting system.
Wait, you were just talking about the lists, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't have those kind of lists.
No, they do.
No, but listen,
I'm saying they do. They've had them. They do have them.
They literally put. Okay, this didn't last, y'all. This only lasted like I think 24 hours. 36 hours. Maybe. They put on the Williamson County or whatever website, like a what is it called? Like a snitch.
Report your neighbor.
Yeah,
it's a
report
snitch
your
list.
neighbor, a snitch thing. And where's that data going? I saw Robby Starbuck. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, what? Like, what are we doing?
You know what my favorite part is, though? People are so dumb. If you ever see one of these forms in your county, you ever see a report your neighbor snitch list over a COVID thing or whatever it is, okay? The people who make reports to those lists are privy to the Freedom of Information Act. So you can make a FOIA request, and you will get a list of every person by their name who made those reports. It is not anonymous.
Well, that's good. So
that's a positive. So you can see who in your city is a gigantic Karen.
Positive, Robby.
Who wants, I feel so bad for people named Karen. They don't deserve this Karen.
I know. And you know what? We know a Karen that's like the most lovely person in the world.
She's probably one of my favorite people in the world is named Karen. But you all know the context.
Yeah,
man,
I mean,
it's too much. But even here, we're in Tennessee. The police they're not really. I haven't seen them enforce anything. I mean, you go downtown right now in Franklin, and pretty much 70% of the people are not wearing masks, even though there's a mask mandate.
Yeah, but the reason is because it's not being enforced. That's my problem. At some point, you give them enough ground, then you will have them. See, this is the thing. Like the way that they work. They'll get the medical establishment to say, oh, you guys have to enforce this. This is, whatever they do.
They've already done that.
They're going to.
They'll keep pushing, but that's what I'm saying.
I'm being more of a realist.
It's regionally based. You look at places like California. I expect them to do that. I do. I 100% expect it. You look at a place like Tennessee. At the end of the day, these politicians do want to be reelected for the most part. And the ones here in Tennessee, whether they like it or not, the mayor of Franklin, he is not going to get reelected. No. He has been an absolute disaster. He's acted like a Democrat every day.
No interest to run for mayor or anything.
I told her if he doesn't get primary, she's running for mayor while I run for Congress, and we'll kick him out of office and a congressman out of office. We'll do both if we have to. But this mayor
I don't want to run for anything.
I'm going to make her if this guy doesn't get primaried because he acts like a Democrat. I'm pretty sure he is a Democrat and he just ran as a Republican because he knew that's the only way he could win here.
I think he's just mad he didn't get invited to one of our rallies.
Maybe. But the guy he's a lunatic. And he's one of those things, you know what? I love people who work really hard and want to do a great job in medicine. Okay, I do. So if you're in that group of people, don't listen. Don't include yourself in what I'm about to say. But one thing I hate about some doctors is there's this God complex, okay, where they think that they just are holier than everything and they know everything, which is interesting because one of the doctors who I've met who had the biggest God complex ever, I once asked him a question. He said, hold on a sec, I'm going to Google it. Which I just think is funny because I knew the answer and he didn't. But you go into that state of mind. That's what this mayor has in Franklin. He's a doctor and he thinks he's holier than everybody and he has all the answers.
He's not
I'm going to make the choice for all of the stupid people. That's basically his state of mind. And you cannot be a good leader if you just say, you know what, I'm just going to decide what's best for all the stupid people. And that's what his mindset is. That's not how you govern. That's not how you have a government that is, truly representing by the people, you know, and the people have a real voice. So, you know, I have a real fire
Yeah,
in me to make
and
sure
he
that guy
calls
gets
himself
kicked
a
out of office.
Republican, just like
He's
the
not
other
one.
guy
He's
that
not
is
one.
mayor of Williamson County as well. I mean,
Honestly,
these
we need to
people
just start
are
kicking
rhinos.
these people out.
They call themselves conservatives. They call themselves constitutional conservatives, and they're not.
They're not.
And that's the problem within our own party. And at least we have a self-awareness to admit that and to try to correct that.
We should honestly kick people like that out. We really should. We should, no, because the next time he runs.
You vote better people in. That's how you do it.
Yeah, I would love to. But at the same time, I'd also love to see the Republican Party here.
Well, that's why Tennessee Stands, a great organization here, is actually suing them for their unconstitutional, mandates.
I would love to see the GOP though even put out, you know, a statement to these people who are not acting in the best interest of freedom to say, hey, we are not going to allow you, to run under our party banner if that's your position.
That's true. And you know what people need to do too, on camera, civilian journalists, just civilians in general. We need to start asking our local politicians, people running, where they stand, and have them go on the record on these issues. Have multiple people ask about whatever issue you want to know. Are you going to do a mask mandate? Put them on camera. Put them on, hold them to their word. Because that's what is needed. More transparency. I can't stand politicians that get up there and they talk about freedom and this and that and America. Like, I don't want that. I want to know what you would do in this situation. Where do you stand on this? Where do you stand on these things? Are you truly a constitutional conservative? And ask them these questions. And I think that's the problem, is that we just get so enamored with patriotic, like, inspirational, like, gatherings and stuff, and we just kind of forget to ask those really, really important questions.
I love the Sidney Powell signs that Stop the Steal.
Yeah. Sidney Powell is a freaking rock star.
I took a picture of a sign at the Nashville Stop the Steal. There was a big Sidney Powell sign. I took a picture of it and sent it to her, and she loved it.
Yeah, I love Sidney Powell. She's a rock star, and you can tell. You look at her eyes.
Cares.
She knows some stuff.
Well,
she knows some stuff.
She cares about America.
And God protect her, because she knows some stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like before we leave, I want to talk really quick about some censorship that's happening that's very alarming to me. And I know I've talked about this before, but like, hear me out, because there's different areas with it happening. Okay, with human trafficking, with sex trafficking, with the hashtag Save Our Children, which has been removed on multiple social media platforms. They're going after this. They're trying to discredit the epidemic of modern day slavery, sex trafficking, as a QAnon conspiracy, or a conspiracy, or whatever. They're trying to discredit people like myself who are involved in this capacity, including anti-trafficking organizations.
Let me interview you real quick. Does the hashtag have anything to do with QAnon in your mind?
No.
No. What does it have to do with?
It has to do with exactly what it says. Saving children. Yes.
Okay. See, It should be that simple, but to the social media sites, it's not. To them, it's everything's a conspiracy. Honestly, I think they read more conspiracies than anybody, because
they're the ones who are obsessed with conspiracies and not with reality and facts, because the facts support that we have this huge problem in America. And instead of journalists doing their jobs and talking to victims, talking to anti-trafficking activists, educators, people in the medical field, these organizations, instead of asking them what's going on and what's going on in the eyes of survivors, instead of listening to them, they go and try to actively discredit people. They wrote an article about me in the Washington Post trying to discredit me. They've gone after other organizations. Most recently, Melissa McCarthy was supposed to donate a large percentage of her sales for this ironically called Kindness Project, film project or show or something, to Exodus Cry, one of the organizations that I'm fundraising for. And she pulled out because some stupid journalist wrote a hit piece on them or discredited them in some way. And she pulled out, and this is the problem with media, is that there's so many people, especially entertainment culture, they listen to everything that comes out of the media's mouth as if it's God speak. Media is their God. It's their arbiter of truth, even when they've been proven liars over and over and over. And there's an active effort to suppress this information. I'm not going to get into why in this video. I'm not going to get into that, but I want to tell you that it's happening. Jocko Boyan, right? Is that how you pronounce Jocko's last name? Jocko Boyan. He's another sex trafficking awareness advocate, speaker. His wife posted something about how porn is a big problem in sex trafficking issue, how it intersects and how it's toxic to our society. And we know this because we know what's happening on one of the largest porn sites, Pornhub, that we call Trafficking Hub. And that comment was deleted from Facebook. Now, why are they making such a concerted effort to delete content that criticizes pornography, that criticizes the sexualization of children, that criticizes pedophilia, that criticizes or deplatforms people speaking out against all the above I just mentioned? There is an agenda. And maybe more importantly than the why for now is how do we get around this? Because the message getting through is so important, which is why we're doing all these rallies, because we have to take this message directly to the people. It's being suppressed on social media, and you should try it out. Post something today. Find something that alarms you about this issue. It could be how many people are trafficked across the border. It could be how more than half of the world's child exploitation pornography is made here in America. It could be any one of those things, and see if they suppress it. See how many people like it. See how many people see it. Because I want you to not just take my word for this. I want you to experience this yourself, to see what lengths these companies, big tech, are going to suppress this information. It's really scary.
Yep. All right. So tomorrow we have Bryson Gray. Mm-hmm. Wednesday we have whistleblower teachers who, I believe, have a pretty amazing story. That they're fighting for individual freedom. Mm-hmm. So we're excited about that. What? Mm-hmm.
No, I'm just looking at the comments before we get off real quick.
Okay.
Where did we stop?
I don't know.
Where did we stop? Okay, sorry.
You're going the wrong way though. I know that.
Oh, okay. This is how you go.
Yeah, press this down here.
You do it.
There you go.
That's the end.
I thought that's what you wanted.
No, I didn't.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So Bryson, if you guys don't know of him already, he's a musician and has been he's very pro-Trump. Mm-hmm. He's a rapper, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I describe him as a rapper.
Yeah. You don't know Bryson Gray? What's wrong with you?
She booked Bryson. I've heard of him, and I think he seems like a really cool guy. I'm going to listen to his music tonight. I watched some of his videos with his dad, which is what I thought was hilarious, because his dad is not a Republican, mm-hmm. and he kind of slowly is working on his dad, convincing his dad to come over. So that was what I love that about
I'd like to see that. No, I mean, I think it's important that we walk the walk. And when we talk about building our own ecosystem and supporting other artists, supporting authors, supporting people, we are walking that walk. We have people on our show that are cultural influencers that are doing it. Okay. They're out there sticking their necks out, sacrificing their careers, writing books about exposing abortion myths and Planned Parenthood, all of those things, all those people, those interesting people we find to bring on the show to share their content with you. Pay attention to those Republicans that are like, oh, we need a new ecosystem. And then they don't actually try to include other artists or help people. Like, that's what you have to do. You have to support other artists.
Uplift other people.
Other people.
Which is what we've always done. People like, we always have, when people have a new movie out or something like that, we have
right.
on.
Absolutely.
Speaking of, we need to have Jack Soba back on about his Antifa movie.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We'll do that. Yeah.
All right, guys. See you guys tomorrow.
Bye, y'all. Have a good day.